Welcome to a meeting of your Planning Commission, the official local planning agency for the cities of Tampa, Temple Terrace, Plant City, and unincorporated Hillsborough County. The Planning Commission provides innovative leadership and long-range vision that contributes to the creation of a thriving, prosperous community that offers opportunity, fairness, and choice in how we live, move, learn, work, and play. For more information about the Planning Commission, please call 813-272-5940. Follow us on social media or visit our website at planhillsborough.org.
All right, welcome back to the regular meeting of the Planning Commission, Monday, July 8th, 2024. So we will move on after that short break to our second item number 2 on the agenda, public input for items not scheduled for action on the agenda. We didn't have anyone sign up. So we will move on to item number 3 on the agenda, action items. First one is 3A, Port Permit 23-0444 Riverwalk District Waterfront Project, and the presenter is Lizzie Baker.
Lizzie Baker, Planning Commission staff. Good afternoon, everyone. The action item that I'm presenting to you today is the Port Tampa Bay Standard Work Permit number 23-044 for the Riverwalk District Waterfront Project. The applicant is the Riverwalk District Tampa LLC. The port sent us this permit to review for consistency with the Tampa Comprehensive Plan pursuant to chapters 95-488 and 97-351 of the laws of Florida. The project area is located on the lower portion of the Hillsborough River in Tampa. And if we zoom in farther, you can see that it's along the river's edge on either side of and as well as underneath the West Kennedy Boulevard Bridge. And if we zoom in even farther, you can see the project area and the outline on the screen. For the existing conditions, along the Hillsborough River in this area, there is an existing seawall shoreline on either side of the bridge. Additionally, there were resource surveys that were conducted that indicated that no seagrasses, submerged aquatic vegetation or SAV, or essential fish habitat are located in the project area. The surveys also indicated that there were no aquatic or benthic resources along the riverbed that were observed during the surveys. They did identify that there are 4 existing well-established black and white mangroves, which will be incorporated into the design. And for further context, which you can see on the screen, there are 2 photos. The top one is to the south of the bridge. There is an undeveloped parcel there adjacent to the project area, with residential and commercial development proposed. To the north is the bottom photo, and you can see Plant Park at the University of Tampa, which is also adjacent to the north part of the project. For the proposed project, it proposes to construct an underpass walkway underneath the West Kennedy Boulevard Bridge, as well as a floating dock with 8 slips and a kayak launch, as well as an ADA compliant gangway and platform, as well as a living shoreline. There will also be minimal dredging that's proposed to meet the required water depth of 4 feet. And then regarding the purpose of the project, the walkway will serve pedestrians, cyclists, and others, and the dock will serve future residents as well as commercial establishments. Some of the factors considered when reviewing the port permit against the Tampa Comprehensive Plan were adverse as well as advantageous, environmental impacts, the River Master Plan, as well as the Marina Siting Guidelines. So based on that, there were no significant adverse environmental impacts that were identified, given the floating dock and the walkway will be above unvegetated waters, as well as along an existing seawall. The living shoreline does aim to improve the natural river functions. As I mentioned previously, the mangroves will also be incorporated into the design. Additionally, this proposed facility supports the existing character of the river by concentrating the marina and boat traffic in the urban core, and the facility also complies with the city's marina siting guidelines. Based on that review, Planning Commission staff recommends to find the Port Tampa Bay permit number 23-044 consistent with the Tampa Comprehensive Plan. And that concludes my presentation. I'm here as well as representatives from the Riverwalk District Tampa LLC for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there an applicant, or was this publicly initiated? You have a presentation, please come forward.
Hi, Alex Shaler, 400 North Ashley Drive. We don't have anything further to add. I'm here on behalf of the related group, but I'm happy to answer questions. We have Travis Cobb, our engineer, and Debbie Rivera, our environmental scientist, who can answer technical questions as well if you have them.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, we didn't have anyone sign up in the public comment for this item, so I will turn it over to the commissioners for discussions, questions, clarifications. Not seeing any motion, then I will go on ahead and close the public comment on this item and open it up to motions from the commissioners on this item. Commissioner Fernandez.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to make a motion to find permit application 23004 consistent with the Tampa Comprehensive Plan.
All right, we have a motion of consistency finding, Commissioner Lauk.
Second.
And a second to that motion of consistency, finding by Commissioner Fernandez, a second to that motion by Commissioner Lauk. Are there any questions, comments, discussion items from the commissioners? Not seeing any at this time, then we'll all signify their agreement by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? The motion carries unanimously. All right, thank you. All right, next up, we have item 3B, Cities of Plant City, Tampa, and Temple Terrace Procedures Manual Update, and the presenter is Unica Mills.
Good afternoon, Commissioners, Unica Mills Planning Commission staff. Again, I am here to present the update to the procedures manual for the cities of Plant City, Tampa, and Temple Terrace. My presentation is organized as one presentation, first referencing the changes that were made across the board for all of the jurisdictions, and then I'll go over some more unique revisions that were made pertaining to each of the jurisdictions. Afterwards, I will give a recommendation, and after each recommendation slide, you will need to make a vote. The procedures manual is the document that outlines the procedures for plan amendments for the cities of Tampa, Temple Terrace, as well as Plant City's plan amendment procedures. The procedures manual was last updated in 2021 for all of these jurisdictions. With this update, it was determined that there were some unique aspects of each jurisdiction. So rather than there being one manual to address all of the jurisdictions, each of the jurisdictions were separated for each of the jurisdictions to have their own manual. Some of the overall revisions that were made throughout the manual include placing a 180-day limit of when a plan amendment needed to be voted upon by each jurisdiction once the Planning Commission takes a vote on it. And of course, all references to other jurisdictions were removed, being that each of the jurisdictions will now have their own separate manuals. We also revised verbiage related to references and definitions to be in line with state statute regarding the definition of what a plan amendment is. Additionally, we added language to clarify the process of what happens if an applicant wants to make a revision or modification to a plan amendment request prior to the Planning Commission public hearing, as well or after a Planning Commission public hearing. Also, Planning Commission staff now has the right to adjust a plan amendment timeline based on our workload and the number of plan amendments that are submitted in a specific round. All of the revisions that you see in your packets were vetted by each of the jurisdictional legal staffs, as well as Tracy. Some of the revisions that were unique to Plant City for their procedures manual is that within Plant City, a good deal of their plan amendments have concurrent annexations. The Plant City staff wanted language to be added within their manual that requires that an annexation is signed off on by the jurisdiction before applying for a plan amendment. Because what's been happening is we get into the process, and then once the Planning Commission makes a vote, everything's kind of held up because the annexation has to meet up with the plan amendment. So Plant City staff asked for that modification. Also unique to Plant City, there is a planning board which votes on plan amendments and transmits their vote to the City Commission So we added verbiage that clarifies how the planning board process works and that the Plant City zoning staff will now be responsible for the notification of the planning board meetings. You all should have also received a change sheet that referenced the time frame for the submittal of new information prior to a planning commission public hearing. A portion of the original paragraph should have been stricken and it was left off, so we sent you all a change sheet on last week. And with that, Planning Commission staff recommends that the proposed comprehensive plan procedures manual for the city of Plant City be found consistent and forwarded to the city commission for approval.
All right, there's no presentation from Plant City staff or anything like that?
There, no.
No one signed up for the public comment on this one, so I will turn it over to the commissioners for questions, comments, discussions of this item. I am not seeing a lot of excitement on this one. So I will then go on ahead and close the public comment on this item and open it up to motions from the commissioners. Commissioner Lauk.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move we approve the update to the comprehensive plan amendment procedures manuals for the city of Plant City, Tampa, and Temple Terrace, and forward the manuals to the respective jurisdictions for adoption.
All right. We have a motion of approval. Commissioner.
Just a correction. I think we're only doing Plant City first, correct?
Right,
Yes.
yeah, sorry.
I retract that and move Plant City only. Thank you.
All right, we have a motion of consistency finding for Plant City. Is there a
I'll second that.
All right,
Plant City one.
Commissioner Kona. All right, so we have a motion of approval by Commissioner Lauk, second to that motion by Commissioner Kona. Are there any comments, discussions from commissioners? Not seeing any, would all signify their agreement by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Will you please continue?
Okay, some of the unique revisions for the City of Tampa's procedures manual. There were revisions to the mail notification distance to align with the mail notification distance for rezoning applications. So rather than a 250-foot notification radius, it was changed to 300 feet. Additionally, we revised the requirement for pre-application meetings for plan amendments per definition by state statute and made it optional for small-scale map amendments. And also on last week, you should have also received a change sheet. Due to ongoing collaboration between the City of Tampa and Planning Commission staff, there was one last revision that was finalized after the packets were placed on the Planning Commission website. So on last week, you all should have received a change sheet with verbiage regarding the maximum number of times either the executive director or the Planning Commission could continue a plan amendment. And I hope you all did, in fact, receive that and had an opportunity to review it. And with those recommendations or revisions, Planning Commission staff recommends that the proposed comprehensive plan amendment procedures manual for the City of Tampa be found consistent and forwarded to the City Council for approval.
All right, anything from the city? No? All right. We didn't have anyone sign up for the public comment on this item, so I will turn it over to commissioners for the City of Tampa manual update. Questions, comments, discussion items? I'm not seeing any, so I'll go ahead and close the public comment on the City of Tampa and open it up to motions from the commissioners. The City of Tampa manual update. Anyone? Commissioner Kona.
Yeah. Motion to find the City of Tampa procedures manual updated consistent with the plan.
All right, Commissioner Lauk.
Second.
All right, we have a motion of consistency finding by Commissioner Kona, second by Commissioner Lauk. Are there any comments, statements, discussions, clarifications from the commissioners? Not seeing any, then we'll all signify their agreement by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those
Aye.
opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Yes, okay. Please continue.
And last but not least, there were only one real major change for the City of Temple Terrace's procedures manual. We did clarify the notification process as well as deadlines that need to occur once a plan amendment has been transmitted to the City of Temple Terrace, which is now being handled by City of Temple Terrace staff rather than Planning Commission staff. With that, Planning Commission staff recommends that the proposed comprehensive plan amendment for the procedures manual for the City of Temple Terrace be found consistent and forwarded to the City Council for approval.
All right, no one from Temple Terrace here, so just checking. to be fair. No one signed up for public comment on this one, so I will turn Temple Terrace over to the commissioners for questions, discussions, comments. Not seeing any, then I will go on ahead and close the public comment on this one and open it up to motions from the commissioners on Temple Terrace manual update. Yes, Commissioner
I
Bowden.
make a motion that we accept the manual revision as written.
All right, we have a motion of consistency finding by Commissioner Bowden.
Second.
All right, a second to that motion by Commissioner Fernandez. Are there any comments, questions from the commissioners? Not seeing any at this time, then we'll all signify their agreement by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right.
And as for next steps, after today's vote, each of the manuals will be transmitted to each of the jurisdictions and voted upon for final approval. That concludes my presentation. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
That's it. All right, thank you. Do we have to, we don't have to take like a vote over all of them? No, okay, I didn't think so. All right.
Thank you.
All right. On to our next agenda item, 3C, Unincorporated Hillsborough County Land Development Code Text Amendment, LDC 24-0221, Rural Area Utilities. And the presenter is Melissa Dickens.
Hi there. Good afternoon, Melissa Dickens, Planning Commission staff. One moment while I get the presentation going. So this LDC amendment is intended to implement the Comprehensive Plan Amendment 2318 that you all saw and voted upon with a favorable recommendation back in April. This amendment has been transmitted by the Board of County Commissioners, and Hillsborough County Development Services is now coming forward with the corresponding LDC change. So Israel Monsanto will present that change. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Israel Monsanto, Development Services. As Melissa stated, this is a companion LDC amendment for our CPA 2318. This will go in front of the Board of County Commissioners on August 8th for the adoption. LDC 24-0221, Rural Area Utilities Connections and Expansions. This proposed amendment to the LDC is to add requirements and criteria to implement the rural area utilities policies proposed for the updated One Water chapter of the Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan under HC CPA 2318, which was transmitted to the state. The CPA amendment, developed with support from the Environmental Protection Commission, EPC, and Hillsborough County staff, including water utilities, modifies rural area water and wastewater, which are called utilities, policies with the primary intent of addressing negative impacts from septic tanks. Land Development Code sections 402 require determination for potable water, sanitary sewer, solid waste, stormwater, parks and school sections will be amended with these new requirements, which basically mirror the new proposed comprehensive plan policies. So there will be changes to requirements for rural area sizing of line, capacity, technical feasibility, lot size, community plan compatibility. The usage of these new regulations, if adopted, only applies to those properties outside the urban service area, with the exception that these new policies will not apply to Keystone Odessa Community Plan area. Connections to existing utility lines in the rural area would be considered on a limited basis. All connections or existing for water and wastewater lines in the rural service areas will be permitted, subject to meeting certain criteria as established in the new CPA language. Exception to the extensions criteria and to the sizing requirements proposed by this amendment will be considered on a limited cases of overriding public interest and subject to review by the county commissioners and approval by the county commissioners. And this will be in accordance with the code section 100600. And these will all be subject to the factors outlined in the new CPA policies 4.3.5 of the comprehensive plan. The implications of this text amendment is that it will outline the process for enabling rural area utility extension serving unique circumstances where there is an overriding public interest. And again, this will be determined by the Hillsborough County, the Hillsborough County Board of County Commissioners. And that includes my presentation.
All right, thank you. We didn't have anyone sign. Oh, did you have more, Melissa?
Yeah, just one quick slide on the Planning Commission's consistency finding. Our staff did review this proposed LDC text amendment for consistency with the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan. In addition to the policies that are specifically being modified by 2318 that you all saw, staff found the amendment consistent with other provisions of the One Water chapter, specifically Objective 5.2, which directs the county to minimize adverse impacts of septic tanks, as well as Policy 5.2.8, which requests or encourages the county to look for new ways to provide wastewater, to look for new alternatives to septic. And so our recommendation is that LDC text amendment 24-0221 be found consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, we had no one sign up for the public comment on this item, so I will turn it over to the commissioners for questions, comments, discussions. I had a quick question for you. This is the one where Keystone showed up big time last time when this came before us.
There were a number of members of the Keystone community, yes, and they were also present at the Board of County Commissioners meeting.
And that's why the carve-out happened? I'm assuming the county commissioners decided that
the county commissioners, yes, made a motion that was approved to exclude Keystone from just the new changes. So the changes that are currently in place will still apply, or excuse me, the language that's currently in place will still apply, but the new language would not apply in Keystone Odessa.
So likewise, you guys came back with the land development code and made the same kind of carve-out for Keystone?
Correct.
Good job. Okay. Commissioner Bowden?
Yeah, what I remember last time, this was more voluntarily, it wasn't a mandate?
That's correct. There's no requirement to, in the comprehensive plan, and nothing in the language is changing with respect to connections, and it wouldn't have any impact on the current state statutes.
Thank you.
All right. Are there any other questions? Commissioner Lauk?
In reading the language and help clarify it for me, it looks like we're making it harder to connect to existing lines, and at the same time we're limiting the use of septic tanks within a quarter mile of
So
the urban service area?
there are a number of changes where the provision with respect to connection to existing lines is that now, if the way the language is in the plan today, before 2318, the comprehensive plan change is that if someone has a property adjacent to an existing line, they can have a single service connection. And under these changes, both the plan and the code, there can be, they can actually subdivide their property and include the line throughout the subdivision, but we included some new language to make sure that there's not kind of a leapfrogging effect. So that might be the new language that you see that requires that limitations on the lines.
That's helpful. And then the limitation on septic tanks within a quarter mile of the urban service area?
The quarter mile provision, I can just pull it up real quick, but that one is specifically for, I believe, the, forgive me, this is a very complex amendment. Oh, that one, excuse me, is just for the new provision to prevent septic tank clustering. So if, right now, if someone wants to develop with an abundance of septic tanks, they can, according to the land development code, the size restrictions, things like that. Now, if under this provision, if an applicant or a property owner wishes to extend wastewater to avoid the concentration of septic tanks, that extension has to be within a quarter of a mile. So it's not making septic tanks more challenging.
Okay.
Right, it's an
Language is a
option.
little muddled to
Yeah,
me.
it's an option that if they want to avail themselves of, they need to be within a quarter
Yes.
mile of
Okay.
the urban service area.
That's helpful.
Sure.
Thank you.
All right. Were there any other questions or discussion items from the commissioners on this one? I am not seeing much motion. So then I will go on ahead and close the public comment on this item and open it up to motions from the commissioners. Commissioner Fernandez.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to make a motion for the unincorporated Hillsborough County Land Development Code Amendment 240221 be adopted and for Hillsborough County.
Second motion.
All right, we have a motion of consistency finding by Commissioner Fernandez, a second to that motion by Commissioner Bowden. Are there any questions or statements, comments from the commissioners, clarifications? Not seeing any, then we'll all signify their agreement by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, next up we have 4 briefings and presentations, and our first one is 4A Transportation Planning Organization 2024 State of the System SOS Report, and the presenter is Connor Trejos McDonald.
Good afternoon, Connor Trejos McDonald, and Hillsborough, but MPO staff. Give me just a minute and pull up the presentation. All right, I'm Connor Trejos McDonald here to present the 2024 State of the System Report. The purpose and use. So, like many TPO products, the SOS report covers a federal requirement of MPOs, and this specific document serves as the federally required congestion management and crash mitigation process. The last State of the System was conducted in late 2021 with minor updates since then. Essentially, it acts as a report card for the transportation system and helps decision makers guide investments. As done so in the past, the SOS report covers 5 categories consistent with the long-range transportation plan. So that's state of good repair and resilience, Vision Zero, smart cities, real choices when not driving, and major projects. This year, we included a special emphasis on transit or real choices when not driving. And I'll cover the main points of these categories with you all and the main takeaways. So for state of good repair and resilience, this includes pavement condition, bridge condition, and transit assets. For pavement and bridge condition on the national highway system, we met all 4 goals set. So these are targets set by the MPO. For transit assets, a previous goal of having the total support vehicles or equipment less than or equal to 19% meeting or exceeding the useful life benchmark. Based on the data collected from HART, the Hillsborough Area Regional Transit Authority, and the National Transit Database, the actual 2022 percentage was 60%, thus this goal is not being met. In addition, parking and passenger and parking facilities rated below 3 on the transit economic requirements or term scale were at 38%, greater than the 10% goal. Examples of these facilities include parking garages, park and ride lots, rail terminals, and bus transfer stations. Here we've provided a map of the pavement condition index on public roads in the county, red being serious condition and green being in good condition. For Vision Zero, we evaluated fatal and serious injury crashes by mode. In 2021, we saw a record high number of fatalities in Hillsborough County, so we researched that a bit more. And we found that 43 or 16% involved an impaired driver, 10% involved a driver speeding, 63% occurred at nighttime, 46% involved a vulnerable user, and 19 or 7% involved in 7% involved an impaired driver. Although we know and recognize that any fatality or serious injury is too many, we did take the time to compare across the state to get a better understanding of how Hillsborough is doing. We rank as the 2nd highest metro area in Florida for fatalities and 3rd for serious injury rate. The next category is smart cities. For this, we evaluated reliability and truck travel time reliability. We also took a look at a volume to capacity ratio, finding a few roadways that you may or may not expect to be over 1.5. So VC ratio, meaning the comparison of roadway demand with supply. As requested in the past, we also took a further look at air quality. In 2023, 71% of days were a good quality index score. 5.7% of the county's population lives within 150 meters of a high volume roadway. 19% live within 300 meters. And 21% of those living in a Justice 40 environmental justice area live within 300 meters of a high volume roadway. Again, we took a deeper dive into transit this time, also known as real choices when not driving. We found that a great majority of Hillsborough County residents, at 79%, do not have access to what is deemed to be a good or acceptable transit facility. This number is lower for employers. We also found that 57 and 54% respectively of residents have no access to walking or biking facilities. For ridership levels, we found that ridership is increasing, but not quite at pre-pandemic levels. We also evaluated the travel time to key and economic spaces via auto and transit. Plant City East does not have transit access, so that is excluded. Sun City Center has the greatest difference with almost a 2-hour transit time and 25-minute auto time. For health destinations accessible via alternative modes, we found that 37% of residents had access to good walking facilities, while only 6% had good transit access to schools and 10% had good transit access to supermarkets. Finally, we did evaluate the 2045 long-range transportation plan major projects and found that 43% of interstates and 24% of other roadways are currently over capacity. To wrap it all up, I have a few key takeaways. One, by 2050, population is expected to grow by 35% and employment by 45%. The county continues to face significant challenges in maintaining and improving performance of the transportation network. And finally, average commute times are rising and congestion is producing additional safety concerns. Thus, smart and effective investment is needed. As far as implementation of the State of the System report, later this year, you will see our fully developed long-range transportation plan for 2050, and that is going to public adoption hearing in early October. And with that, I'll take any comments or questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from the commissioners? There's a lot of information to take in there. Yeah.
I just wanted to mention that part of the reason I asked Connor to make the presentation today is because in September, you all will be getting a presentation on the long-range transportation plan in advance of that hearing in October. And I thought this was a good baseline understanding of where we are as we start to look at what we need going forward. Thanks.
All right. I'm not seeing too much excitement. Then we'll thank you for the information, and we will move on to our next agenda item, 4B, Growth Management Strategies Pamphlet. And the presenter is Jay Collins.
So good afternoon, commissioners. Let's continue some of that conversation that we just had with some of the growth management strategies. So Connor just went through some information related to transportation. So let's ask ourselves if the left hand knows what the right hand is doing. So with that, when we have this pamphlet and with it the story map, the pamphlet is basically a static front back 8.5 by 11 that you can go ahead as staff that we take out when we're actually doing work with the public. And what it's designed to do is that when I'm working on Fowler Avenue with staff, when I'm working in Valrico with staff, when we're working on expansion studies down south, folks are asking, well, you're here, you're talking about this area, where else are you looking at growth in unincorporated Hillsborough County or the city of Tampa, and how are you doing it? So the growth management strategies look at that and take that into account. How is it doing it? It's doing it through comprehensive plan lenses, and it's also doing it through big ideas. What is the story map? The story map in this instance is a Esri GIS map-based package. It can be done this way for the entire county as well as its municipalities, but you can do it all the way down to just your neighborhood and your block. And basically, it's the story, it's the narrative, it's the context for what you want to have. So that map will go into it as showcasing some of those strategies. Also, these strategies, we had conversations with Plan Hillsborough staff. So we collectively went through some of this to try to figure out what should rise to the top. So why do we do this? Well, 538,000 additional residents, you guys have heard this as we have this conversation. We don't have it just with you, we have it with everybody in Hillsborough County. So where will they live, what will they do, and how will they move around? Those are the basic questions that we ask them and they ask us. Out of those answers, you can then get to your issues about quality of life, you can have your issues about socioeconomics, you can have your issues or questions about aging in place. So with that, some of those strategies, redevelopment throughout the unincorporated county in the city of Tampa. USA expansion, that's something that we have some public hearings that are coming up about. We have a study that's going right now about. But let us not forget that the city of Plant City, the city of Temple Terrace, and the city of Tampa have been expanding their urban service areas for quite a while through annexation. The city of Plant City quite a bit. Flu categories is kind of your bread and butter that you have. Small scale housing, it's another way of talking about missing middle housing. Economic development, we talk a lot about where people will work. We have to be able to retain properties for that, some of that industrial. It's interesting to note that there are more industrial lands in unincorporated Hillsborough County today than there were previously. You're seeing lands that are leaving the city of Tampa while we're actually getting new properties in unincorporated Hillsborough County as well as in the city of Plant City. And catalyst projects. Catalyst projects at times can either be some of our old school planning that we've had. Again, what has happened in downtown and Water Street in the Channel District is not happenstance. We've had plans in place for decades, and now you've seen that actually materialize. But it also can be catalyst projects for infrastructure. When you end up having, whether it's the port expansion, airport expansion, new interchanges on an interstate system. So again, what are we doing with this? Well, it's how can we better communicate? How can we promote, market, and educate folks? How can we start a conversation about comprehensive plan policy and about those big ideas? So y'all have it in your packet, the actual pamphlet. So what this is this is actually on our website, right? You go, right when you go to planhillsborough.org, you go under resources and you're going to find this under the rest of our mapping products that we have. As you go down here, you're going to see, I'm going to scroll through this really quick because of time constraints, just so you can see again, you can download our future land use categories. You can go ahead and see joint planning areas here. This is talking about the city of Plant City and unincorporated Hillsborough County. Redevelopment opportunities, we go over to the mall area. Again, this is the city of Tampa and unincorporated Hillsborough County with some of the policy that is being worked on. Either it is currently adopted or again, things that we as staff are working on with the folks that live in this area. And as we go through strategic expansion down south, and again, you'll be able to actually click here to actually go to the USA expansion study that's on our website. This is nimble. We can switch out some of the strategies with other strategies that we're working on. We can also switch out some of the projects that we have. So we just wanted to showcase this with you. Again, it's ways in which we can promote, educate, and communicate with the public at large on some of the work that we're doing here for the people of Hillsborough County. Thank you. This concludes my presentation. And again, there is no action that is needed. These are not adopted documents. It's just showcasing some of the work. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Any comments, questions from the commissioners on this one? Not seeing anyone, so we'll thank you for the information. We'll move on to our next agenda item. We're at 4C, Community Plan Staff Guide. And the presenter is Sophia Garantiva.
Good afternoon, commissioners. Give me 1 second to pull up the presentation. All right, good afternoon again. Sophia Garantiva, Planning Commission staff, here to present on the Community Planning Guide update. The Community Planning Guide, also known as the Community Plan Staff Guide. This is a digital PDF guide for staff on creating and updating community plans in unincorporated Hillsborough County. Community plan conveys a community's vision for the future and charts a course of goals and strategies for realizing that vision. So over the past few years, Planning Commission staff have received some feedback from county staff, elected officials, and citizens that the process takes quite some time to create a community plan, and that the current guide is a little hard to follow, maybe because it's like 110 pages, but that is neither here nor there. We hope that, though, updating this guide and streamlining it can help address some of these concerns. So with that, I'll give a little bit more background. Again, the Community Planning Guide updates the current Community Plan Staff Guide, which was created back in 2012. It is a non-adopted how-to guide, so it includes best practices, explanations of processes, outreach methods. A lot of different details are in there. The updated guide, though, is geared towards Plan Hillsborough staff, county departments, consultants, and neighborhood and civic leaders. The updated guide also presents a shortened process, which allows staff greater flexibility while still ensuring that community plans will be clear, focused, equitable, and feasible. So a little bit of an overview. The updated community planning guide follows the same structure as the 2012 guide, as it is split into 4 sections: an introduction, creating and updating a community plan section, implementing and maintaining a community plan, and then a definition section. The introduction discusses what a community plan is and the regulatory limitations, and helps set the expectations for all those involved. Creating and updating a community plan section discusses the process, again, of creating and or updating a community plan, which are very similar. As a synopsis, the creation or update process is initiated when the Board of County Commissioners makes such a request of Planning Commission staff. First, a public engagement strategy should be prepared, followed by a community assessment and possibly a status of implementation of an adopted plan. Then working with the community, staff would establish or verify plan goals, the vision, goals, and strategies, and then seek community plan acceptance and adoption. That is where the comprehensive plan amendment process would be included. Also, along with that, through every point and step of this process, public engagement would be occurring. And then the last part, the implementing and maintaining of a community plan, outlines what happens to a plan after it gets adopted and how the community can be champions of the plan after the community plan process has concluded. So to the right are some of the infographics from the guide. One provides the general information about community plans, and then the other depicts the creating and updating community plan process, which I just went over. The full updated guide is part of the agenda item. But with that, that concludes my presentation. I am available for any questions. And this is not an action item, just, again, an update on what we've been up to.
Thank you. We didn't have anyone sign up for, oh, there is no public comment on this one, so turn it over to the commissioners for questions, comments. Nope, not seeing any. Well, thank you for the information. And we will move on to our next agenda item. 4D, TACPA 24-03 Comprehensive Plan Map Amendment, multiple folios, generally south of East Bush Boulevard and north of Brook Street intersection. Danny Collins.
Good afternoon, Danny Collins with your Planning Commission staff. This is TACPA 2403. It's a map amendment for multiple folios, generally located south of the East Bush Boulevard and North Brook Street intersection. The request is privately initiated, small scale in size. The subject site consists of 4 folio numbers that for a total of 0.6 acres. And the request is to change the future land use from the residential 10 designation to the light industrial designation. The subject site is located in the University Planning District, and more specifically, it's in the Sulphur Springs neighborhood. It is shown here on our locational map. Here is an aerial map of the subject site and the surrounding properties. You'll see the subject site. It's outlined in yellow. It's just to the south of East Bush Boulevard and has parcels with frontages along North 13th Street, North Brook Street, and North 14th Street. There is a CSX railroad that runs just to the north of the subject site here. The subject site, for reference, is just to the is about a half mile east of the Nebraska East Bush Boulevard intersection. The properties to the north of the subject site are predominantly used for commercial intensive uses, and then we have some residential uses to the south of the subject site. The commercial intensive uses are generally found along East Bush Boulevard. Here is the adopted future land use map. Currently, the subject site's recognized under the residential 10 future land use designation. That's represented by this orangish tannish color on the map. The R10 is to the south, east, and west of the subject site. To the north of the subject site on the south side of Bush Boulevard are parcels recognized under the light industrial designation. And then on the north side of Bush Boulevard, we have parcels recognized under the commercial 35 future land use designation. Here is the proposed future land use map. This request would recognize those 4 folios under the light industrial designation. Currently under the residential 10 future land use designation, subject site can be considered for 6 dwelling units or approximately 9,147 square feet of non-residential uses. Because the site's in the residential 10 future land use designation, any development for non-residential would be required to meet commercial locational criteria, and they would be limited to neighborhoods serving commercial uses. As proposed under the light industrial designation, the subject site could be considered for up to, or just over 39,200 square feet of non-residential uses. Overall, this request would remove any potential of residential uses from the subject site, but while also introducing the consideration of light industrial, commercial intensive, and commercial and general uses on the subject site. With that, that concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
All right, I see Commissioner Lauk moving already, so.
I'm moving. The aerial you showed, it appeared that there was perhaps an existing building on the subject site,
Yes.
or at least a portion of the building that came across into it. Was that accurate, or was just the scaling of the map?
No, that's accurate. There is actually, I think it's an auto repair, building used for auto repair on the subject site right here on the map.
Okay. Can't see it, but I remember it. It's perfect.
Anything else?
All right, thanks.
I had a question also. Are there any, like, are these properties in any sort of trouble with, like, you know, permitting department or improper uses or anything like that? What's the?
I'm not aware of any
ongoing anything. Not sure
any
yet. Okay.
code enforcement cases on here.
Okay.
So.
Commissioner Kress?
Yeah, just to try to clarify a little bit more, understand it, is it related to an existing business that's adjacent or on the property now, or? We don't see a whole lot of residential to industrial, so it's just a little odd.
Yeah, there is some existing commercial intensive uses on the subject site. There's a couple folios that are actually zoned for industrial general. And those, we did some research, we looked back, and it appears that those were zoned for IG prior to conformance, future land use conformance in 1986. So this would correct some of those nonconformities. However, there are parcels, I think there's two of the parcels that are actually zoned for residential single-family 50, which are currently conforming with the land use.
Wait, so there's two of the parcels that are residential and two of the parcels that are zoned IG right now?
Yeah, there's.
And they're trying to go all four to.
Yeah, they're all trying to go to. Two of the folios are zoned for IG, and then two are zoned for RS50. All four parcels are recognized under the residential 10 designation. So this would fix the conformities of those parcels that are zoned for IG.
Right.
However, it would not for the parcels that are zoned for RS50.
Okay, this sounds like a mapping sort of thing, maybe, like we overlooked some.
Well, it's hard to know exactly because back in the 80s, the maps were hand-drawn. And so sometimes when the lines got drawn, they don't exactly conform to what occurred on the ground. So it is unusual that the zoning of the two properties, that they would be zoned industrial and have a residential land use category. That's not what we normally would try to do, unless there was some plan for the area that said they were trying to move the industrial uses out, that sort of thing. I don't think we've found that yet. But then the other parcels were zoned residential, so yeah, probably when they drew a straight line, they just drew it where they thought it was right.
All right, okay. Are there any, yes?
So,
Commissioner Orton.
if I'm understanding this correctly, the parcels to the east of Brook Street, those two they're requesting industrial just north of residential, so those two homes are going to be abutting industrial.
Correct, yep.
So right now, what is the land use? What are they doing on those two parcels?
When we went out to the site, this was a few months ago, it appeared that the site was being used for the storage of commercial trucks.
So how intense can they get next door to those residential units?
Under industrial. Under the light industrial designation, they can go up to a 1.5 FAR.
So I guess my question is zoning more. Can they have trucks there? Can they have mechanics out there? Can they have, you know, what type of use can they have next door to a single family?
So if the site's recognized under the light industrial designation, it would be, it would allow consideration of the IG zoning district, which allows for a range of uses, anything from, you know, manufacturing to the storage of commercial trucks and those sorts of things. But we have some folks from the city here who can probably clarify more specifically what uses could be allowed under those.
So currently there are 2 single-family homes on those 2 lots to the south.
Right.
And then they want to put industrial to the north on those 2 lots.
Right. This is actually an image when we went out to the site. I don't know if you guys can see my screen or not. Okay, so this is actually there now. This is the southern boundary of one of those folios, and as you can see, it's right up against a single-family detached home to the south. So it is quite an immediate transition between those 2 folios.
All right.
Any other questions?
All right. You see, I was just letting it linger there to see if she had anything else or she was going to let it go.
Well, I was just wondering if they decide to close that storage unit, or if they took that down, what comes next? You know, is it something more intense, or could we put, you know, is there any way that we could fix that, or?
Not from here, at least. That's kind of beyond our reach from here.
I do think that and we can ask our friends at the city to verify, but I do think if something new industrial was built adjacent to residential zoning, there would be buffering and screening required that was probably not in the 80s.
All right. Are there any other comments, questions? I saw Commissioner Bowden moving, but no light. Commissioner Kress?
I guess we'll see if the neighbors come and have comments. You know, I'm assuming there's some kind of outreach to them.
There's noticing. It has to be noticed, so they should know about it. All right. Are there any other questions or comments on this one? Not seeing any. Hopefully this gave you something to work with there. And we'll thank you for the information and look forward to it coming back.
All right, thank you.
All right. Next up, we have 4E, TACPA 24-05, Comprehensive Plan Text Amendment Housing Section Update. And the presenter is Erica Larson.
All right. Good afternoon. This is Erica Larson, Planning Commission staff. Today I'll be presenting the briefing for TACPA 24-05, Housing Section Update. Although the public hearing isn't coming for several more months, we recognize that this is an important topic with several substantive topics being discussed at the same time. So we wanted to present this separately to allow for ample time to gather your feedback. This represents the overall major update to the housing section of the Tampa Comprehensive Plan. You've been hearing about these section updates individually. This update is part of the Tampa Comprehensive Plan update. Housing, future land use, and coastal management section updates are all part of the February 2024 cycle. The housing section of the plan is located in the portion labeled Places in the City of Tampa Comprehensive Plan. The current adopted housing objectives include the provision of affordable housing, mixed income communities, supply, sustainability, preservation of existing housing, and equity and fair housing. New housing section updates and modernizes housing-related language and provides a framework for housing-related initiatives. The proposed new objectives include affordability, stability, resilience and sustainability, housing and healthy communities, supply, and access. New language is proposed to most topic areas. Some of the notable topic areas include gentrification and equitable access, homeownership and zoning regulations, incentives, environmentally friendly practices, environmental justice, rehabilitation, and public health and safety.
A couple of specific examples include Housing Policy 1.1.6, which explores options for proactive public and private land investment initiatives, such as land banking and establishing community land trusts to build and preserve long-term affordable housing and minimize displacement. And Housing Policy 1.3.2, which utilizes environmental justice best practices when reviewing housing development applications. Other housing section updates include moving language better suited to other sections, eliminating regulatory and programmatic language, streamlining language, and removing duplications. For the next steps, the exact dates are to be determined. However, the proposed schedule is the following. The Tampa Affordable Housing Advisory Committee meeting will be July 17th. August public engagement meetings, which will be virtual and in person. The Planning Commission public hearing sometime in November, and the City Council transmittal hearing sometime in January, and the City Council adoption hearing in March or April. The Housing Section Update project page has been active since April 24th. The public can review draft language and compare new versus existing language and other supporting documentation. The comment period is now open. Comments can be sent directly through the page and they will reach us, the project managers. Both Katrina and I are project leads for the Tampa Comprehensive Plan Housing Section Update, and this is our contact information. Thank you. This concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you. All right. Are there any? Yes, Commissioner Kona.
Just a quick question, and I'm sort of new still. Is environmental justice a new term, or what does that mean exactly?
Right. So for the hearing, we're going to, along with the housing section update, we have definitions that are going to be included specifically for housing, coastal, and the flu. So you'll have, that's a great question, and we'll make sure to have, I believe we do have a definition for that, but if we don't, we will include it.
I guess for me, the word justice means punitive in some sort of way, so I'd love to see the definitions and what that entails. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions or comments? I'd just like to say, and I'm sure Katrina knows because she's dealt with me a million times and she's back there smiling. You guys are going to get both barrels from me, so I hope this thing comes through sharp. And I realize that it's the city of Tampa. I'm a county, appointee and a county boy. So I usually leave things be to the city of Tampa, and ultimately I'll leave this be, but before I leave it be, I'm going to be on top of every word in that document and serious about it. So hopefully there's not games being played, because I've read through it and I've seen some stuff like permanent renting or something like that. I think I read in one of the drafts through it, trying to make it so that renters just get to rent without having to leave where they are if they don't want to pay and things like that. So I'm kind of wondering, as you talk about adjudication, how all these things are going to be done by the city of Tampa. So I have some questions about those things. So don't be flippant about the language, because I'm on it. So just throwing it out there.
Yeah,
Yes.
I would say that we use environmental justice to ensure that there is access and availability for all. And there are certain areas where we've seen that disproportionately they haven't had access for all, and so those areas get called out in, I believe, a map in the mobility section of the Tampa Comprehensive Plan. It identifies those areas that have historically had challenges in having disproportionate impacts, and so trying to ensure that we're making sure that we're aware of those as we make decisions and not further contributing to impacting those areas adversely. The draft is linked in your agenda item, and with this time we would welcome, like we've done with some of the other sections, I know Commissioner Joseph has availed himself of this, if you want to have an individual meeting with staff on feedback that you see in the draft, we would welcome that. We are aiming for a hearing in November, so we've got some time.
And I'll reach out before,
Okay,
as usual.
thanks.
Commissioner Loud?
I was going to laud you for your eloquent speech. You put it in much better language than I think I could have, but I concur wholeheartedly. There are a lot of buzzwords in here, And I think it's something we really want to look very closely at when it comes before us.
All right. Are there any other comments, questions from the commissioners? Not seeing any at this time. Well, thank you for the information. And we will move on to our next item of business. 4F, TACPA 24-08, Comprehensive Plan Map Amendment, 3901 and 3905 North Ola Avenue and 3904 North Dartmouth Avenue. And presenter is Emily Phelan.
All right. Emily Phelan, Planning Commission staff. This is TA CPA 2408, located at 3901, 3905 North Ola Avenue, and 3904 North Dartmouth Avenue. This is privately initiated small-scale amendment. It's approximately 0.51 acres, and the request is to go from residential 10 to residential 20. The subject site is located within the Central Tampa Planning District, the Tampa Heights Urban Village, and also the Tampa Heights neighborhood, located here on our general location map. The subject site is outlined in pink, and it is predominantly surrounded by single-family detached residences. There are some multifamily located to the north, but that is much further north of the south. It is predominantly single-family detached. This is the adopted future land use map. As you can see, the subject site is outlined in black and is represented with the residential 10 designation, which does surround the subject site. Moving further north is where you see the community mixed use 35 and the community commercial 35, which are some of the commercial uses. And then further southeast of the subject site, some of the recreational open space is the Woodlawn Cemetery. This is the proposed future land use map. The subject site is outlined in black and represented with the residential 20 designation. Under the existing future land use designation R10, the subject site can be considered for 5 units or just over 7,700 square feet of non-residential uses if locational criteria is met. Under the proposed residential 20 designation, the site can be considered for up to 10 dwelling units or slightly over 11,000 square feet of non-residential uses if locational criteria is met. And this concludes my presentation if you have any questions.
Thank you. All right. Are there any questions or comments, discussions on this one? Commissioner Lauk, I see you moving.
Have we seen this property in the past, in the recent past?
I don't believe so, no.
It's ringing bells. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions or comments from the commissioners? Not seeing any at this time. Well, thank you for the information. And we will move on to our next agenda item, 4G, TACPA 2409, Comprehensive Plan Map Amendment, generally located northwest of the intersection of North Massachusetts Avenue and West Braddock Street. And the presenter is Emily Phelan.
Emily Phelan, Planning Commission staff at TACPA 2409, and it is generally located northwest of North Massachusetts Avenue and West Braddock Street. This is privately initiated, small scale. It is approximately 0.11 acres, and the request is to go from residential 10 to residential 20. The subject site is located here on our general location map. It's within the Central Tampa Planning District, the Tampa Heights Urban Village, and also the Tampa Heights neighborhood. This is in.
We can't see it.
Oh, how far back do I need to go?
Well, there's nothing. Yeah.
Can HTV show the presentation?
There we go.
Privately initiated, small scale, 0.11 acres. The request is to go from residential 10 to residential 20. It's located here on our general location map, Central Tampa Planning District, Tampa Heights Urban Village, and the Tampa Heights neighborhood. This is the subject site is outlined in pink. It is predominantly surrounded by single-family residential detached to the north, east, and south of the subject site. Further to the north along Plymouth Street is a TECO substation. Across from Plymouth Avenue is the Woodlawn Cemetery over here, and here is a place of religious assembly. And directly across from the subject site to the east is the Plymouth Playground. This is the adopted future land use map. To the north, south, and west of the subject site. It is surrounded by the residential 10 designation, and you can see the recreational open space where the Plymouth Playground and the Woodlawn Cemetery is, and the place of religious assembly is where the public, semi-public designation is. This is the proposed future land use map with the subject site represented with the residential 20 designation. Under the existing residential 10 future land use designation, the subject site can be considered for one dwelling unit or just over 1,600 square feet of non-residential uses if locational criteria is met. Under the proposed residential 20 designation, this subject site can be considered for 2 dwelling units or slightly over 12,000 square feet of non-residential uses if locational criteria is met. And that concludes my presentation. If you have any questions.
Thank you. Were there any questions from the commissioners? Not seeing any. Then we will thank you for the information. We'll move on to our next agenda item, 4H, TACPA 24-10 Comprehensive Plan Map Amendment 2101 West Main Street, and the presenter is Sam. I don't know how to pronounce your last name yet because you're new to me. Landis, okay. I don't know if it was Lands or Landis. Sam Landis.
Hi everyone, I'm Samantha Landis. I'm an intern at the Planning Commission. This is for TPA CPA 2410 at 2101 West Main Street. So this was publicly initiated by a community redevelopment agency. It is small scale, covering approximately 0.22 acres, and the request is to switch it from community commercial 35 to recreational open space. It is located within the Central Tampa Planning District, within the West Tampa Urban Village, within the West Tampa Old Neighborhood, and in the West Tampa National Historic District. It is being gestured at on the map. As you can see, it is outlined in yellow. It is to the northwest corner of West Main Street and North Albany Avenue, and north of Interstate 275. So the adopted future land use currently has it as community commercial 35, where it is surrounded by on the west, south, and east, and to the north is residential 20. With the plan amendment, it would become recreational open space, and currently it can be considered for 7 units or 19,166 square feet of non-residential uses. Its potential would be 0 units, and the proposed amendment will eliminate the potential of commercial or residential development not associated with park operations. Any questions?
All right, thank you. Are there any questions from this one from the commissioners, comments? Yep. Are you just saying hi? All right, thank you. We will move on to our next agenda item, 4I, TACPA 24-11 Comprehensive Plan Map Amendment, multiple folios located at the northwest corner of West Swan Avenue and South Magnolia Avenue, and the presenter is Danny Collins.
Good afternoon, Danny Collins with your Planning Commission staff. This is TACPA 2411. It's a map amendment for multiple folios located at the northwest corner of West Swan Avenue and South Magnolia Avenue. The request is privately initiated, small scale in size. Subject site's approximately 1.73 acres, and the request is to change the future land use designation from the residential 35 category to the community mixed use 35 category. The subject site's located in the Central Tampa Planning District. It's within the Hyde Park Urban Village. It's within the Hyde Park Spanish Town Creek neighborhood, and it's also within the Hyde Park Local and National Historic Districts. It is shown here on our locational map. Due to the site being within the local historic district, this amendment will require a review by the ARC prior to proceeding to City Council. Here is an aerial map of the subject site and the surrounding properties. You'll see the subject site. It's outlined in this yellow color. It's at the northwest corner of South Magnolia Avenue and West Swan Avenue. It's immediately adjacent to the Bank of Tampa building, which is to the east of the subject site. This is a 9-story office building. There are townhomes directly to the south of the subject site on the south side of West Swan Avenue. And then there are some office buildings to the east of the subject site and on the north side of the site along West Bay Street. Wilson Middle School is also a couple blocks to the east of the subject site, as well as Gorey Elementary, which is to the north of the subject site as well. Here is the adopted future land use map. The subject site is currently recognized under the residential 35 designation. This allows medium density residential development up to 35 dwelling units per acre. R35 is to the north and to the west of the subject site. Directly to the south, we have parcels recognized under the residential 20 future land use designation. And then to the east of the subject site and northeast, we have parcels recognized under the CMU 35 designation. A significant majority of the subject site, I would say 95% of the subject sites within the coastal hazard area. This is denoted by this green line here. Again, Gorey Elementary School is here just to the northeast or northwest of the subject site. And then we have Wilson Middle School, which is a couple blocks to the west. These parcels here, this dark brown color, represent parcels recognized under the residential 83 designation. Here is the proposed future land use map, recognizing the site under the community mixed use 35 category. This category encourages a mixed use development pattern up to 35 dwelling units per acre or up to a 2.0 FAR. Residential development could utilize FAR given that the site is within the central Tampa Planning District. Here's a slide showing the proposed impacts of the change. Currently, under the residential 35 category, the subject site can be considered for 60 dwelling units, or just over 45,200 square feet of non-residential uses. Any non-residential development of the subject site would be limited to the CN zoning district, and would require the site to meet locational criteria. As proposed under the community mixed use 35 category, the subject site can be considered for 60 dwelling units or just over 150,700 square feet of residential or non-residential uses. This amendment has the potential to introduce the commercial general uses while increasing the residential and non-residential intensity on the subject site. With that concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you. Were there any questions or comments on this one from the commissioners? Commissioner Bowden?
I've got a quick question. Since it's going to mixed use, and maybe I'm thinking ahead, would that increase maybe the surface parking? You know, how would that affect that? Has that even been looked at this point?
Parking is typically handled through the land development code and through zoning, but if there's any specific questions related to parking, we have Frank and Evan from the city here. Requirements.
Yeah, my thought was this: should you go from strictly residential to mixed use, how would that affect the parking for the from where it is today to what the new development would be? And I may be going beyond the scope.
Evan Johnson, City of Tampa. Ultimately, and this is not the answer I want to have to give to you, but ultimately it's going to depend on the actual mix of uses because each individual use will have a different ratio. As you can see from the big change is going to be the fact that if they did a non-residential use, that a significant increase there is a significant increase in potential square footage for a non-residential use. So one could assume that would be a more intensive development, right? So you can do 60 to 60 on either one, or you can use that FAR, floor area ratio, for a non-residential use. So it'll vary exactly how many spots per 1,000 square feet, depending on the code, which I can certainly be ready to answer any specific questions based on a variety of uses when I come back for the hearing. But that's the big change, is that they could do a significant amount of non-residential use with this amendment if it was approved.
Okay, so that actually there's a possibility it could be more intense and it would increase.
Absolutely, absolutely, yes, sir.
All right, thanks.
All right. Are there any other Commissioner Kress?
I will say it's a very urban area, so it's realistic to assume not everyone's going to drive to get there.
Commissioner Kona?
Are you anticipating a lot of feedback on this property?
I'm not sure. We haven't received anything yet.
Okay.
I believe the noticing letters, they should be going out over the next few
Okay.
weeks. So
Thanks.
Yep.
All right. Are there any more questions or comments on this one? Not seeing any. Well, thank you for the information. We will move on to our next agenda item, which is 5, our Executive Director's Report. And the presenter is Melissa Zornita.
Good afternoon, Melissa Zornita, Executive Director. At your table, there are a couple of things. First is my monthly report, which is a little shorter list because I did have some vacation over the last few weeks. But did want to highlight just a couple of things. We had some virtual public meetings on the update of 2 remaining goals of the county's future land use section that the county commission had asked for some further refinement on. We've participated in all of Commissioner Meyer's town hall meetings. She had, I think it was just under 20 across her district over the course of the year. So pleased that we were able to support those. Myself and Sean College and Sarah Caper from the Transportation Division participated in John Dingfelder's radio show on WMNF. That was a fun experience. We're pleased to share that we are the recipient of a APA Florida award. That will be given out at the APA Florida conference that will be held here in September. The mobility section of the City of Tampa's comprehensive plan is being awarded an award of excellence, which is the highest level in the comprehensive planning category. So very pleased about that, and we're working on producing a video that they do to celebrate the award. The last thing is that on Friday I had a meeting with the county attorney's office, a comprehensive plan amendment for the county. You all will probably remember it was in the Carewood area, just north of Gunn Highway, and it was by a church, and they were asking for light industrial planned next to the church to allow some storage of RVs and boats. That plan amendment was approved by the Board of County Commissioners and then appealed by the neighbors. And so we are going through the administrative challenge process and assisting the county in however we can on that. Coming up, we do have a public hearing, another public hearing on July 29th. That one has a number of map amendments for the county as well as the comprehensive plan amendments that were requesting the expansion of the urban service area and their corresponding map amendments. We had scheduled that hearing, a second hearing for this month because we originally intended to have the Energy Industrial Park amendment tonight. That one is garnering quite a bit of public input. Unfortunately, there was an issue with the notice, and that will be moved to August 12th. It will be heard right after the amendments that you just were briefed on from the City of Tampa. So we got a shorter night tonight, but we're going to have a longer night on August 12th. So there's a trade-off. Let's see. As you heard about in the briefings, we've been working on different components of the City of Tampa's plan update. Also at your desk is some materials related to the a workshop that was held with City Council on June 27th? Yeah, okay, June 27th. Melissa and David were both there. I was on vacation, but so I'm thankful that the team had a great discussion with City Council on some of the key changes in the land use update. They walked through with them the new goals, different place types, changes that are being proposed with relationship to policy on the coastal high hazard area, making it much more clear which areas plan amendments could be considered to increase density and intensity in the coastal hazard area and areas where they would not be. Policy updates related to industrial and criteria on when we need to preserve our industrial land, development of neighborhood commercial districts, and then a significant part of the work is creating a series of density and intensity bonuses that do not currently exist in the city of Tampa today, related to things like affordable housing, efficient and resilient buildings, and encouragement for transit supportive development. So we wanted to provide you with some of those materials as just sort of an interim update. Staff is planning to give a full briefing on that element at the September meeting. As you heard in Erica's presentation, housing, coastal, and land use are all being processed generally together because they have so many related issues. We will be having some outreach in August, later August, once school has gotten back in session, and then coming to you all for a public hearing in November. So what that means is, originally when we sent out the schedule of Planning Commission meetings, we had anticipated needing a second public hearing in the month of September. September 23rd, we're not going to need that anymore. So Sharon will be deleting that from your calendars, and we will be hearing those three elements as part of that regular city public hearing on November 18th. Let's see, a couple other things. Also at your desk is a notice about a planning officials training workshop. I sent out previously that the APA Florida Conference was occurring here in Tampa. If anybody would like to attend, I think Commissioner Joseph is going, and Commissioner Kress. But if anybody would like to just attend planning officials training, that is an option as well. It's geared specifically towards folks like you all who are not planners but get to participate in planning as volunteers. So let me know, or let Sharon know if you're interested in attending. I also wanted to address the little issue that we had related to financial disclosures. Hopefully everyone has filled out your financial disclosure for 2023, because they were due on July 1st. So if you have not, please get on that right away. When we submit to, so that whole process of the financial disclosures is handled by the state. The county asks us for all of the names and addresses. We used to get these financial disclosures in the mail. This is the first year they've done it via email. Well, they asked us for your email addresses, and we provided your official email address, because then the state sends correspondence. We want that captured as part of the public record. So that went to your plancom.org email address, and that's where I think the issue arose, is that a lot of you all don't use that or access that regularly. So talking with Lionel, there are two ways we can approach this. I think he set this up for Commissioner Lauk, that now all the plancom.org emails, or maybe it was Commissioner Buzza, but are automatically forwarded to whatever email address you want. So that way we still get the email, we capture it as public record, it forwards it. Alternatively, with the state, there is a form that we can change the email address, and if you would like, just for this financial disclosure purpose, it to come to a different email address than your plancom.org, we can work through the county to do that. It takes a bit of time, there's a form involved, all that sort of good stuff, so it wasn't the right time to do it right when the financial disclosures were due. But now that we have a year to get all that in place, we can do that. But just please communicate with myself or Lionel or Sharon, however you would like it handled. We can get it set up so there's a rule in your inbox for plancom.org that things just are automatically forwarded so you don't miss anything. I just wanted to address that to make sure everybody got it taken care of, or gets it taken care of real soon. I have to assume that since this is the first year that they've done it this way, that they're giving a bit of a grace period, but I'm not in charge of this. This is just something that we pass through the information to you all. Okay, the last thing is that there was an update on a couple of plan amendments. I think these ones went to second reading with the City of Tampa. 2401 at Westland Avenue, the city approved, and then the Memorial Park Cemetery they approved. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, I just have one quick question. July 5th, Torres versus HC Plan Amendment Challenge. Is that the Carolwood thing you were talking
Yes.
about? Okay.
Yes.
All right. Were there any other questions, comments, statements from the commissioners? Not seeing any. Well, thank you for the information. We will move on to our next agenda item, which is buried under all this paper, and that would be other business. Item number 6, other business. Chair's business, I have none. Old business, there is none. Does anyone have any new business? Not seeing any, then I will turn it over to committee reports. I have one committee report from the TPO. We had on June 12th, we did the TIP, Transportation Improvement Plan, and we approved that. And sometime in the evening, didn't last too long. It wasn't nowhere as bad as everybody thought it was going to be. But so the TIP got approved, and that's about it from the TPO. So are there any other committee reports? Not seeing any. Then that will be the end of this meeting, because that is our last item of business. We will be back at 5:30 for our public hearing. So with that, at 4:51, the regular meeting is adjourned.